Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming and more Monster Hunter Wilds talk. Today we're talking about one of the most important endgame systems that exists in Wilds. And that is one of these weapons you're looking at now, the Artian weapons. A futuristic, technology-focused style of weapon that forms essentially the main meta of Wilds as we know it right now. These are unlocked as a mechanic when you defeat your first tempered monster in high rank. So that's technically going to be available at high rank 20 and above after you complete a main story mission known as Wyvern Sparks and Rose Thorns, which has you face your first tempered monster. Artian weapons are the meta weapons of the game on average though. There are some rarer standout options depending on the weapon and the damage focus. Having said that, but across the board, most of the time, Artian weapons are going to be your best options to consider. This is because they have high stats that you can actually modify and manipulate into your ideal weapon, of course through RNG. The highest rarity Artian weapon also feature the best offensive decoration slots, so you'll actually have 3 level 3 decoration slots, which is pretty damn incredible. Not only that, they're all pretty unique in design. This one's one of my favorites. This is the charge blade. Any of the kind of transformation device related weapons seem to be pretty standout for them, but they're all pretty cool on average. You'll notice that when they're sheathed, they have a different visual, because when you unsheath them, they actually gain some sort of visual effect. So, like I say, with the charge blade being a particularly good one, this is like a whirring clock, which has got a lot of detail to it, but so does the sword as well. We transform into axe mode, and that changes things even further, only looking better when we get the effects of charge blade going into it. However, not all Artian weapons are made the same. What you're looking at right now is the Artian dual blades, for example, which, you know, it's a big circle on your back, and when you unsheath them, technically there is a visual effect going on there, but is it as cool as, say, the charge blade or, say, switch axe, some of my favorites there? Certainly not. So this is kind of the dark side of base Wilds, in my opinion, and if you don't like the way your Artian weapon looks, we're tough out of luck. There is no layered weapon system at the base version of the game, although we do have like a pretty big update promised in update 1 coming early spring, and we're pretty much praying that layered weapons come with that, so we'll see. So you've got to defeat a tempered monster for the first time, at which point the system will be introduced to you. To actually engage with it though, start by speaking with Gemma, the smithy, at any of the base camps. As you can see from the list of options, we have forge Artian weapons and reinforce or dismantle Artian weapons. So this system might appear a lot more complicated than it actually is when you first look at it like this, but it really isn't that bad, I assure you, and I want this video to help you understand that. To craft any Artian weapon, you're going to need 3 specific parts. So in the case of dual blades, we're going to need not 1, but 2 blades, and then I'm going to need 1 disc. What will actually come out when I'm crafting these is shown to you on the right side of the screen, but that's with an affinity infusion times 3. If I were to hover over the attack infusion with thunder here, well then it would be down to 15% affinity and slightly more attack. But the thunder element number would stay the same, unless I were to swap this to water or something. As you can see, the numbers are reflected in attack and affinity as before, but now the thunder element number is smaller. So what you actually put in will affect the attack, the affinity, and the element at its starting point. But what if you don't want to craft a dual blade? What if you want to craft a charge blade? Well then, in this case, I'm going to need a blade, a disc, and a device. Maybe if we go for a longsword, you'll see that it needs a blade and then 2 tubes. So there are 4 weapon parts to consider. There are blades, tubes, discs, and devices, and depending on the weapon, you need a different combination of these 3. And as you can see, there are 2 kinds of Artian bonuses we can provide. It's attack infusion or affinity infusion. We can see that this weapon starts with an attack of 627 and 5% affinity. So if I were to put 3 attacks of anything into this, we could get it all the way up to 676 on the base attack. Or if we go for affinity in all 3, we can get it up to 20% affinity. So adding an attack infusion will add 5 raw attack, and adding an affinity infusion will just add 5% affinity per bonus. So when we're actually forging it and using these initial parts, should you go attack infusion, affinity infusion, a mix of both? Well, on average, the truth is that attack infusion is going to give you more. Ultimately, you're getting 5 attack every time you put one of these in, whereas we're getting 5% affinity whenever we put one of those in. In regards to affinity, obviously that's the chance that you're going to crit. And so we might be getting a lot of bonuses from decorations, from your gear and the skills on them. And in terms of offensive use, are you using things like crit boost or say crit element? That's where there'd be more argument for running affinity to make sure you're closer or at 100%. But the problem with that concept is that, well, you're RNG rolling what's going to be on the weapon when you reinforce it, which could be more affinity, so you could overcap, whereas you can't overcap on attack. Affinity is quite easy to get from these skills and decorations such, whether you're using, say, maximum might, weakness exploit, antivirus leaning into the gore stuff, which a lot of us will be, but it is a lot harder to just give yourself straight up attack increases. Ultimately, if you're not leaning into crit element or crit boost and those kind of things, then attack infusion is kind of the obvious choice, even with all 3 parts. And interestingly, even if you are leaning into crit boost and especially crit element, which is more likely, the numbers are pretty close, even then still weighted in favor of attack. So all of that is to say that if you're not sure, go 3 attack infusion. The majority of the time, that will be the clear, correct answer. To achieve a non-element Artian weapon, all you need to do is make sure your parts, all 3 of them, are something different. So you make sure that one is fire, one is thunder, one is sleep. As long as those 3 parts are not the same as one another, it will result in a non-element weapon. Meanwhile, if you want an element or status weapon, at least 2 of those parts must be the same. So 2 paralysis would result in a paralysis weapon, but if you put 3 paralysis parts in, then the paralysis number, the result, would be higher. So for an element weapon, you'd want 3 of the same element to be optimal. For the sake of an example then, let's go ahead and make a thunder focus with affinity pair of jewel blades. So I've got thunder affinity times 2 on the broken blades. Now I need a thunder affinity infusion under a cracked disc. So we've got that. So let's forge it. And there we have it. Rarity 8. This is because I've used 3 rarity 8 parts overall. As you can see, you do actually get these parts in lower rarities, which you'll find with weaker tempered monsters. So let's talk about how we actually get these weapon parts and the relics they come from, and that whole system. Right now in the Windward Plains, we have a couple of monsters that will give us them. As I said, you're going to unlock this mechanic once you take down your first tempered monster, and that is because these weapon parts, they come from tempered monsters specifically. So this very low level monster, a Temper Cumatrice, this is going to offer me some of those parts. If we take a look at the information, we can see damaged weapon shard, and it tells me it's a rarity 5 appraisal item. It needs to be appraised before I can see what it is. It's a bit weird, but basically you can't get rarity 5 weapon parts. This is going to be appraised and then be put 1 rarity above once you reveal what it actually is. So these damaged weapon shards will become rarity 6 weapon parts. The highest level you can find are these ones on this tempered ray Dow. This red coloring is basically what you're looking for. It says that it's rarity 7 when it needs to be appraised, and so when I appraise it, it's going to turn into a rarity 8 weapon part of some kind. Naturally, you're going to want the highest rarity parts to actually craft the rarity 8, the highest rarity Artian weapons. So you're always going to be after these reddish pinkish parts because those are going to offer the highest. Like with the Cumatrice again, these white ones are like the lowest one, rarity 5. But say with Tempered Rathalos, we have these pink ones, these are rarity 6. And then the red ones, those are rarity 7, the highest you're going to be able to find. And it's associated with the monster. So with the Cumatrice being a lower tier monster, you get lower rewards. That Rathalos would be a higher tier, as we saw. And then this Ray Dow, that'd be the highest tier level of monster. So what we're looking at here is an apex predator that is tempered. You will also find that Arkveld is in that same tier. This one's not even tempered, and it's rewarding a lot of decorations for its hunt. But obviously because it's not tempered, it doesn't offer any weapon parts. So if you're looking for the highest rarity weapon parts, you need to be hunting tempered Arkveld, any of the 4 apex predators, so Jin, Udra, duna, and of course Ray Dow. And finally, gore magala is also in that highest tier. So you have your pick of 6 potential monsters there that have the highest rarity options for your Artian parts. So with that in mind, what is it you're actually looking for? Well, let me pull up some of the investigations I've got saved. As you can see, tempered arkveld, we have those red weapon parts there. As you can see, tempered ray dow, but that's a great hunt. So there's multiple monsters to hunt, therefore more bonus rewards, more relics to get. Same thing for this new udra hunt, we've got a ton there. There's gore magala. Same thing for duna, we have a great hunt here with a bunch of them. And I even have some tempered dahaad save as well, so you can see that it also rewards those highest tier weapon parts. Those are the ones that I'm always saving and looking for. You'll see most commonly though that tempered arkveld is just one of the most reliable options because it's the highest tier monster. The last aspect of your Artian weapons then is actually reinforcing them, which is an important mechanic. Let's choose some of mine to reinforce. As you can see, my charge blade here is already 5 out of 5. This means you can reinforce it up to 5 times, and that's the limit. The problem here is that there's no going back on whatever reinforcement bonus you actually get. So here, I actually got all 4 kinds on one weapon. Affinity, attack boost, sharpness boost, and element boost. For an element weapon focus like this, I'd want as many element boosts as I could possibly find. At least 1 sharpness boost so that I'm able to, push up that white sharpness to last a little bit longer. And that'd be my goal. But obviously, it's a lofty goal because there's a lot of RNG here in what you get. Here's the best ones I've been able to roll so far. 3 element boost, the 1 sharpness, and then the attack boost because it's just what I got. So that's 4 out of the 5 that I'm aiming for. That's pretty damn good. Achieving perfection is going to take a lot of time and a lot of rerolls and a lot of attempts. But getting one that's like 3 out of 5 what you were looking for, I think is a great starting point. Let's look at the Thunder Jewel Blades that I just made and give you the example of the system. To reinforce these, you're going to need specific materials. All of them are basically sight or light type ores that you get from 2 main sources. If you speak with Nata at any of the base camps, you'll find that he has festival shares to offer you. As time passes, the fire spring happens in the oilwell basin, the festival happens, and you get some of those ores generated. So as time passes, you'll just get given some, which is nice. But a more reliable option that you can kind of force is by coming to the smelting foundry that is here in the base camp of the oilwell basin. By speaking with this NPC, you'll find that you can do smelting of ores in exchange for boss materials. So let's take the highest point one that just is worth the most and craft a bunch of them. Let me filter by the amount that I have because I have absolutely tons of arkveld parts because I hunt him all the time. And so just like that, I'm going to make 36 of this material, the highest level 1, to then put into my Artian weapons. For this highest tier 1, you need a total of 50 to get all 5 upgrades, so it's just the smoothest way to do it in my opinion. So let's look at, say, the switch axe that I was just playing around with. You need 3,000 points total to get each upgrade. So this lowest tier 1 barely gives you anything, this one's pretty decent, double that on the next tier, and then this one's the best one as I've just shown you. So you need 50 of these for all 5 levels. So you can see I'm going to get question mark reinforced bonuses. This again could be attack, affinity, element, or sharpness. If the weapon has no element on it, then it cannot roll the element upgrades, reducing the amount and maybe making it more likely you get what you want if you're after a load of attack bonuses. For me, I'm after 1 sharpness and as much element as I can get on this elemental weapon focus. So let's see what I get. It's reinforced, we got all 5, and it looks like we got pretty bad rolls on this for what I just said. 2 affinity, 2 sharpness, and 1 element boost. So yeah, it's not quite what I was looking for. On the bright side though, when you dismantle these weapons, it will actually give you, as it says, exactly the materials used to upgrade it straight back to you. So I will get 100% of the materials that I used to upgrade this straight back to try again, to roll another. This means we can keep re-rolling and reinforcing that RNG over and over until we get something we're happy with if it does go wrong. But of course, that first assumes you actually have the weapon fragments to keep generating, say, this next switch axe with the right affinity rolls or whatever, with the right element, to then keep upgrading it and hoping I get the right thing, which is a different story. This is of course why it's a real endgame system and a bit of a grind. Getting something that's 2 or 3 out of 5 that you're happy with is not that hard and will serve most players completely fine. Someone that's trying to be a perfectionist and getting the ultimate perfect roll, that'll take a lot more attempts, and so that's where, say, the longer time grind is for Artian weapons. So that about covers it for Artian weapons and what I want to say about it. I hope I was able to cover all of the important aspects of those weapons for you. We're going to have more guides on optimal farming and all that stuff very soon, so be on the lookout on the channel. For now then, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.